Missile tests are not random. They are messages. And when North Korea launched ballistic missiles on the very day South Korea's president arrived in China, it wasn't military testing, it was geopolitical communication.
Today we explore a dramatic and consequential development in East Asian geopolitics. North Korea firing ballistic missiles into the sea just hours before South Korea's president began a state visit to China. This move has captured global attention, raised tensions across Northeast Asia, and prompted serious questions about the future of regional security. In this video, we'll break down what happened, why it happened now, and what it means for the world. On January 4th, 2026, North Korea launched multiple ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan. These tests involved a hypersonic weapon system, which North Korea claims enhances its ability to penetrate U.S. and South Korean missile defense shields. Kim Jong-un stated that these advancements are necessary due to the current geopolitical crisis and international events, seeing them as a justification for a strong nuclear deterrent. These actions are a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions and pose a significant threat to regional and international peace and security. The timing of these launches, just hours before South Korean President Lee Jae-myung's state visit to China, is particularly noteworthy. President Lee aimed to encourage China, a key ally of North Korea, to play a constructive role in promoting peace on the Korean peninsula. China has historically been a significant trading partner with South Korea, and South Korea views China as a key player in improving inter-Korean relations. However, China's relationship with South Korea is complex, especially with the presence of U.S. military support in South Korea and differing views on North Korea's nuclear program. The U.S., Japan, and South Korea have responded to North Korea's missile launches with condemnation and a pledge for a unified, coordinated response. The U.S. has also conducted joint military exercises with South Korea and Japan, demonstrating a firm resolve to respond to North Korea's advancing nuclear and missile programs. The U.S. maintains that it is open to dialogue with North Korea, but insists that North Korea constrains its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Another significant event influencing North Korea's actions is the U.S. military operation that ousted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. North Korea denounced this operation as a serious encroachment of sovereignty and an example of the rogue and brutal nature of the U.S. This event likely heightened North Korea's fears of regime change and further motivated its pursuit of a strong nuclear deterrent. The East Asian security landscape is evolving, with countries like Japan and South Korea increasing their defense spending and pursuing more independent security strategies. These countries are strengthening regional partnerships and investing in advanced technology to protect their interests. The interaction of deterrence, hedging, and alliance management strategies shapes the security environment in East Asia. China's increasing military presence in disputed territories and its efforts to undermine existing regional organizations contribute to regional instability. Creating communication systems for crisis management and economic cooperation is essential to prevent military conflict. North Korea's missile launches continue to challenge global stability, forcing nations to reevaluate their strategies in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. North Korea's strategic missile tests are complex events, carrying multiple layers of meaning aimed at different audiences. These recent launches, including hypersonic missile tests, occur against a backdrop of heightened geopolitical tensions. They often coincide with key diplomatic events, such as South Korean President Lee Jae-myung's visit to China. Part 1. The diplomatic stage. We begin with the context of a South Korean presidential state visit to China. Key discussion points included denuclearization, peace, and economic cooperation. This visit was particularly significant, marking the second meeting with the Chinese president in just 2 months. Part 2. Message to China. The first strategic message was a clear reminder to China of North Korea's military capabilities. Analysts suggest these launches aim to deter closer China-South Korea relations. North Korea's missile launches serve as a reminder of its military capabilities and a signal against closer ties between China and South Korea. Some experts believe these actions are designed to deter China from deepening its relationship with Seoul. Part 3. Message to South Korea. The second message was a direct warning to South Korea. Sending missiles into the sea serves as a powerful geopolitical signal without direct aggression. The tests act as a direct warning, showcasing North Korea's ability to strike the peninsula without direct aggression. Missiles fired into the sea send a powerful geopolitical message, demonstrating capability without immediate conflict. Part 4. Message to the United States. The third message was set against North Korea's condemnation of a U.S. military operation in Venezuela. This timing connects to a broader anti-U.S. stance, highlighting North Korea's consistent opposition. North Korea's actions are often linked to its condemnation of U.S. military activities. This includes operations like the U.S. military presence in Venezuela, which North Korea frequently criticizes. Part 5. Conclusion. The launches were not just a military test. They were a diplomatic message wrapped in missiles. These tests delivered a three-pronged message, a reminder to China, a warning to South Korea, and a condemnation of the United States. North Korea's missile tests are a complex tool of statecraft, designed to achieve multiple strategic objectives simultaneously.
The historical context of North Korean provocations is crucial for understanding current geopolitical tensions in East Asia. These provocations, which include armed incursions, missile tests, and terrorist acts, form a pattern aimed at achieving strategic objectives. The most significant initial provocation was North Korea's invasion of South Korea on June 25, 1950, marking the start of the Korean War. This invasion aimed to unify the peninsula under communist rule. The war ended with the Korean Armistice Agreement on July 27, 1953, establishing a ceasefire and creating the Korean Demilitarized Zone. However, a formal peace treaty was never signed, leaving the two Koreas technically still at war. The agreement was signed by military commanders from the United Nations Command, the Korean People's Army, and the Chinese People's Volunteer Army. It established the Military Demarcation Line and the DMZ, a 4-kilometer wide buffer zone. The DMZ runs across the peninsula and is heavily militarized. The agreement aimed to ensure a complete cessation of hostilities until a final peaceful settlement could be achieved. The late 1960s marked a period of heightened provocations, with North Korea staging limited armed actions against South Korean and U.S. interests. Infiltration of armed agents into South Korea was frequent, along with kidnapping and terrorism. Major incidents included attempted assassinations of South Korean President Park Chung-hee in 1968 and 1974, and a 1983 bombing in Rangoon, Burma, targeting President Chun Doo-hwan. From 1954 to 1992, North Korea reportedly infiltrated thousands of armed agents into South Korea. Incursions and raids into North Korea also occurred. The Korean DMZ conflict saw numerous skirmishes resulting in significant casualties. North Korea dug several tunnels under the DMZ between 1974 and 1990, believed to be invasion routes. These tunnels violated the 1953 Armistice Agreement. Provocations continued, including armed incursions and threats against South Korean critics. In July 2006, North Korea launched several missiles into the Sea of Japan, followed by a nuclear bomb test in October 2006. On November 23, 2010, North Korea fired approximately 170 artillery shells at Yeonpyeong Island, a South Korean island, hitting both military and civilian targets. This attack resulted in casualties and increased tensions. South Korea retaliated by shelling North Korean gun positions. The bombardment was one of the most serious attacks since the 1953 armistice. North Korea's missile program began in 1976 with the acquisition of Scud-B missiles from the Soviet Union. Since then, North Korea has conducted numerous missile tests, including short-range, intermediate-range, and intercontinental ballistic missiles. The country has also tested submarine-launched ballistic missiles and space launch vehicles. North Korea has declared itself a nuclear state, seeking to enhance its nuclear strike capabilities. The regime views its nuclear weapons as defensive, citing U.S. and South Korean military alliances and exercises as threats. In recent years, North Korea has sought to exploit major power rivalries and weaken U.S.-South Korea ties. North Korea has challenged the Northern Limit Line, a maritime border with South Korea. North Korea's missile provocations have decreased in 2024, with a shift towards covert tactics like GPS jamming and sending trash-filled balloons. North Korea aims to sever ties with South Korea and strengthen its alliance with Russia. Kim Jong-un continues to focus on direct engagement with the United States while excluding South Korea. North Korea's provocations are driven by a need for self-preservation, a desire to enhance its military capabilities, and a strategy to gain leverage in negotiations. The Kim regime uses these provocations to overcome domestic instability and international isolation. The DMZ remains heavily fortified, with both sides maintaining a strong military presence. Despite its purpose as a buffer zone, it has been a site of conflict and tension. North Korea's missile tests have raised alarms across East Asia, particularly in South Korea and Japan. While each nation perceives the threat differently, there's a general consensus of heightened risk in the region. The United States has responded to North Korea's missile tests by conducting trilateral drills with South Korea and Japan, showcasing a united front against Pyongyang's actions. These drills often involve deploying powerful military assets, such as long-range bombers, to the Korean peninsula. South Korea has expressed strong condemnation of the missile tests and has been working closely with the United States to maintain a strong deterrent capability. There are concerns that North Korea may conduct a nuclear test soon, further intensifying regional tensions. Japan has activated emergency alert systems in response to North Korean missile launches, reflecting growing concerns over regional stability and national security. Japan has also been coordinating closely with its allies, including the United States and South Korea, to monitor and respond to North Korea's actions. China is North Korea's primary economic partner and strategic buffer, making Beijing's response critical for future diplomacy. However, China has voiced grave concern over North Korea's missile tests and has urged Pyongyang to cease actions that heighten tensions on the Korean peninsula. China faces a balancing act between maintaining its relationship with North Korea and addressing international concerns about Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs. Beijing has supported UN sanctions against North Korea, but also advocates for dialogue and a peaceful resolution to the crisis. Some analysts suggest that China may be using North Korea's nuclear weapons as leverage in negotiations with the United States, Japan, and South Korea. Additionally, North Korea's actions could distract world attention from China's own activities in the South and East China Seas. Japan has strongly condemned North Korea's missile tests, viewing them as a threat to its territory and regional stability. The Japanese government has repeatedly urged North Korea to comply with UN Security Council resolutions and refrain from further provocations. Japan has activated its emergency alert systems in response to North Korean missile launches, underlining growing concerns over regional stability and national security. Japan is considering measures to strengthen its defense capabilities, including acquiring and deploying anti-missile batteries. The country is also likely to welcome a more robust American presence in the region. Japan places a high priority on the abductions issue, seeking the return of Japanese citizens abducted by North Korea in the past. This issue remains unresolved despite calls for the return of all abductees at the earliest possible date. The United States maintains a stance of close monitoring of North Korea's missile activities, working in close coordination with its allies, South Korea and Japan. The U.S. often responds to major North Korean missile tests with temporary deployments of its military assets, such as long-range bombers, aircraft carriers, and nuclear-powered submarines, to the Korean peninsula. The United States has reaffirmed its commitment to the defense of its allies in the region, including South Korea and Japan. The U.S. military has conducted joint exercises with its allies to demonstrate their combined ability to respond to North Korean threats. While maintaining a strong military presence in the region, the United States has also expressed a willingness to engage in dialogue with North Korea. However, North Korea has so far rejected these overtures, demanding that the United States first drop its hostile policy before talks can resume. Overall, North Korea's missile tests have created a complex and volatile security environment in East Asia and beyond. The tests have triggered a range of responses from regional and global actors, including military drills, diplomatic pressure, and economic sanctions. The situation remains uncertain, with the potential for further escalation and miscalculation.
The future of East Asian security hinges on a complex interplay of diplomatic efforts and potential escalations. Diplomatic prospects involve key players like China, South Korea, and the United States. These nations navigate a delicate balance, seeking stability while protecting their interests. One potential scenario is escalation, where tensions could rise, leading to increased military posturing. This could manifest as heightened rhetoric, increased military drills, or even direct confrontations. Conversely, diplomacy offers a path towards de-escalation and peaceful resolutions. International negotiations and conferences provide platforms for dialogue and compromise. A third scenario is strategic patience, a long-term approach involving careful observation and calculated responses. This strategy avoids immediate reactions, instead focusing on sustained pressure and gradual shifts in policy. Ultimately, the region's stability will depend on which of these paths the key players choose to prioritize.
This was a strategic move by Pyongyang, not just a military test. By launching missiles at such a critical moment, North Korea sent a message to both China and the United States and reminded the world that the security dynamics of Northeast Asia are as volatile and complex as ever. What do you think this means for peace on the Korean Peninsula? Comment below. Subscribe for updates on this unfolding story.